Test, 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 test. 1, 2, 3, 4. Test, test. 1, 2, 3, 4. Test 1. Test 1, 2, 3, 4.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to welcome you all to the meeting of the Arkansas State Highway Commission. I'd like to also welcome those of you who are joining us on the live stream. Beautiful day outside, and in consideration of such, we'll try to be very efficient inside today so we can get back out and enjoy it. I want to do our normal reminder that we're all mic'd up here. If you're recognized to speak, if you'll turn your microphone on, turn it off, we're not speaking. And I'll mainly try to remind myself of that. Dave, help me out. The next item will be to follow our standard protocol here of late, and that is allow the minute orders to be signed electronically. If I could have a motion to approve such.
So moved.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda will be approving the minutes from the July the 27th meeting. You've all had an occasion or opportunity to read over the minutes. Any comments, changes? If not, have a motion to approve the minutes. Have a motion and a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Minutes are approved. Next item on the agenda is consideration of our minute orders. As is our standard procedure, I'll ask Dave to read the minute orders. If you have a comment or question, I'll recognize you and we'll deal with those. If you have no comment or question, we'll consider the minute order approved and go to the next one. So that's all in agreement. Dave, it's all yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Minute Order 1 simply calls for the ratification or approval of the purchasing committee actions. Minute Order 2 calls for authorization to proceed with the award of the Arkansas Commercial Truck Safety and Education Program and its projects as recommended.
I got a question, Mr. Chairman. Lori, is that money that has, it's already been approved and it's been accumulating and now we're just putting it into the program?
Correct, that's right.
Okay. So we're not putting a new burden on anybody. It's already been approved for 2 or 3 years or whatever.
Right, it by law, it's set aside for this
set aside.
purpose, and then we use it as it accumulates, and
Okay, thank you.
you're welcome.
I had a question. Are we partnering with any entities or anything like that on that project?
We have a committee. We work really closely with the Trucking Association, and we have a private member on that committee. We actually just assigned a new member. He's with Stallion Trucking, but we get a consumer member, and we also have Arkansas Trucking Association, Shannon Newton, on our committee, along with Chief Holmes, Jared Wiley, and they meet together and determine the best use. They review the applications and make recommendations to the commission, which is what you're looking at today. It's their recommendations for how to use the funding.
Okay, thank you.
Continuing on, Minute Order 3 takes us to District 7, Ouachita County, where we are simply declaring a certain amount of land as surplus property. Minute Order 4, District 9, Boone County. This minute order has to do with a partnering agreement with the City of Harrison for the construction of improvements along Highway 65 between Industrial Park Road and Highway 65 Business. And finally, Minute Order 5 simply calls for the opening bids for the September 21st letting. And that is it, sir.
Any commissioners, anyone? All right, thank you very much, Dave. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which will be State Highway Revenue Update from our CFO, Mr. Patrick Patton. Patrick, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, sir. Good morning. We'll start off, as you know, last report was for the end of the fiscal year. This is for July of the state fiscal year 2023. So starting off, our traditional revenues, motor fuel registration fees, permits, and penalties are up 7.2% or $2.7 million. Those are the first four categories on the slide. Next, you see the natural gas severance continues to be strong. It's up 3.9 million over last year, and therefore our revenues are 6.6 million or 17% above last year. One note is you see on there the interest is still at zero. The first 1,025,000 goes to two other funding sources. Right now, the Regional Mobility Authority's fund is fully funded at $525,000, and the research grants and workforce development is at $320,000. So that will be fully funded hopefully in September, and then we'll start seeing some interest revenue come into Rdot for RRA.
Patrick?
Yes.
That natural gas severance, is that held in suspension for certain roads? It doesn't just go into the pot and used on everything. It's just certain roads that are impacted by the, what do they call that process?
The fracking.
Fracking, yeah.
This-
It like 6 or 8, 10 counties or something?
This piece is separate from that.
Oh, okay, this is different than
There's
that.
two pieces.
Okay.
There's one that you're talking about that's a 5% that
Yes.
we distribute monthly, or I distribute out monthly to those
Okay.
10 counties that, and we'll talk something about that during the appropriation process when we get to that later.
So it's a different pot?
But that's a different pot.
Okay, good, thank you.
It's a good question, thanks. The next slide is budgeted versus actual revenue. As you can see, things are pretty steady. Natural gas severance, once again, is up 4.2 million there, but overall, 6.8 million or 17.6% above budget for this so far this year. Moving to Act 416 revenue. Total revenue is even. It's 5.1, same as last year. The makeup of that's just a little different. As you can see, the motor fuel, there's 100,000 more this year, 100,000 less in electric hybrid fees. So all in all, it's flat.
Patrick, can you remind us when the casino tax comes through?
It comes in at the end of the fiscal year. So June 30, we received our full 35 million for last year. So this will be zero until we hit June of this next year.
Patrick, following up on the casino tax, what are the parameters on that? The first 32 million or so goes back to the state, and then we have the next 30, are we capped at the next 35 million?
We're not capped at the next 35. The governor is committed 35, and anything over that, once we start hitting over the 35, there is no cap at this
Okay,
point.
now I guess that's my follow-up question is, are we still getting the 35 million committed by the governor, or are we now getting money from the casino revenue? Does that make, you understand?
Yes, it's about a 30 to 40% to 70, 60. So
Okay.
there's a mix right now. We have not gone, the easiest way for me to say it, I guess, is we have not gone halfway through the 35 million yet. I think we got about 14 million from the casino, and then that would have meant, 36 from, or 20.
So adding that back to the 32, they're getting somewhere close to $50 million on the casino revenue now.
Yes, sir.
Overall. Okay, thank you.
Mhm. On Act 416, the budgeted versus actual, once again, it's even. It's 5.1 million, made up of 2.6 million in the gas and 2.3 million in diesel and 200,000 on registration fees. Moving to our fuel consumption, Gas is down 4.8 million gallons, or 3.7%. Diesel's up 3.9 million gallons, so offsetting. So overall, flat at a down just 0.5%. If you look at it over the rolling 12 months, you see pretty much the same thing, it's just a little different look. Due to the different mix in months, the rolling 12 months year over year is 1.77% above the previous 12 months, or 38.8 million gallons. Moving on to the half-cent sales tax report. Up here you see for the year so far, 1.8 million above DFNA's projections. A day or two ago, I got the August numbers. So right now, August was up 2.5 million over DFNA's projections. So for the year, the current number is 4.3 million above DFNA's projections for this year so far. If you look at it over the next slide being the since inception, we're at 40.5 million, just through July through August. If we take that into consideration, we're right at 43 million above DFNA's projections for the program. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you very much, Patrick. Good report. Okay, at this time, I'm going to turn the rest of the agenda over to Director Tudor.
Okay.
He'll take it from here.
All right,
Madam Director, thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have Kevin Thornton to give you an update on federal highway and transit issues.
Thank you, Director Tudor. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, time is quickly passing toward the end of this federal fiscal year, which ends in 16 days on September 30th. As a reminder, the U.S. House has passed an appropriation bill for federal fiscal year 2023. The Senate has not yet passed their bill. In fact, the Senate has not yet begun work in committee regarding their appropriation bill. They have been for several weeks working on a continuing resolution, or CR, for the first part of 2023. It is expected that the CR will extend funding until the first or middle of December. If passed, this would provide funding until after the midterm elections. Not only is the Senate working to craft a CR that will pass the Senate, it must also pass the House. As you can imagine, this is proving to be a challenging task. However, we do expect a CR to be passed prior to the end of the month. We certainly appreciate the work of our delegation in the Senate and House as they can work to continue to provide funding to us so that we may continue to respond to the transportation needs of Arkansas. I would also like to give you an update on our Rebuilding American Infrastructure and Sustainability and Equity, or RAISE grant. We submitted applications in April of this year for a project. On August 11th, the U.S. DOT announced which projects would receive RAISE grant funding awards. As a reminder, it was determined that our best candidate project, based on merit criteria assessment, was the project in Saline County on Highway 5. This project begins at Highway 183 and continues until the Pulaski County line. This project will reconstruct the existing 2-lane road to a 5-lane curb and gutter facility with accommodations for pedestrians and bicycles. Unfortunately, our project was not selected to receive RAISE grant funding. There were a total of 166 projects that did receive RAISE grant funding. A total of $2.2 billion was awarded. One grant was awarded to Arkansas, to the city of Conway. They were selected to receive a $25 million grant to develop an approximately 15-mile corridor of infrastructure that consists of multi-use paths, bridges, cycle tracks, and trailheads. This corridor will connect East and West Conway. With regard to the rest of the grant awards, it is interesting to look at which agencies received them. A total of 79 grants were received by cities, which is almost half of the number awarded. Local agencies, other than cities, received 33 grants, while state DOTs were awarded 26 grants, which is 16% of the 166 total award. County projects received 15 grants, and tribal projects received 13 grants. So, even though we didn't win this one, we will continue to work to win additional funding for Arkansas from the many grant programs that are contained in the IIJA. With that in mind, I would like to inform you of our next grant program application. The U.S. Department of Transportation has announced that they are accepting grants for the 2022 Federal Railway Administration's Railroad Crossing Elimination Program. A total of $573 million in discretionary grant funding is available in 2022. The minimum award amount is $1 million. There is no maximum award amount specified. $115 million has been set aside for projects in rural areas. The application period opened in July 6th, and the applications must be submitted by October 4th. The goal of this program is to fund highway rail grade crossing improvement projects that focus on improving the safety and mobility of people and goods. To assist us in our application development for this grant opportunity, we have secured the services of H&TB, who has experience in preparing grant applications. The department only considered projects that were currently under development in our statewide transportation improvement program. Additionally, we also only considered projects that would eliminate an at-grade crossing. It was determined that an intersection improvement project in Cross County on Highway 64 at the intersection with Highway 49 in Fair Oaks is the best candidate on an assessment of the merit criteria. This project, as it is currently programmed and funded, is projected to cost between $3 and $5 million. It will realign the intersection of Highway 64 and 49 while reconstructing an at-grade crossing with the Union Pacific Railroad. If grant funding is awarded, we would change the project to construct a new location railroad overpass that would eliminate the at-grade crossing. The estimated construction cost of the railroad overpass alternative is approximately $20 million. We are hopeful that we will be able to win this funding, which will allow us to construct an overpass in place of the at-grade crossing.
Are there any questions from the commission on this grant
Do you have one?
application?
Do you have one?
Yeah, I have a question about that railroad grant. So if the state DOT just ends up getting 20% of the grants, I mean, does it hold true for the railroad just like it did for the other grant? Or should cities and counties be out there applying for this? And am I making sense?
I think what you're asking is who's eligible for this money?
Yeah,
Who are
I
we
just
compete-
assumed it was,
Who are we competing against?
is it cities and,
I think
county?
this one is available to local agencies as well as DOTs, so we'll be competing just like we did on the RAISE grants with
Okay,
other
same
agencies.
deal.
Yeah.
I had a question, Karen. The RAISE grants we're talking about, they're federal grants, obviously. They're through the Federal Highway Administration.
Correct.
Yes.
And what is the general source of revenues for the Federal Highway Administration? Is that,
Well, they have a combination of revenues that they're funded with motor fuel tax through the Highway Trust Fund, and then general revenue transfers
okay.
has been some of the main funding over the
So
last
fuel
several
tax and
years.
general revenue?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Any other questions? If there's not, I need a motion to allow us to submit this application to the Federal Highway Administration.
Okay, you've heard the content of the motion. Have a motion to submit this application?
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, opposed, no. Ayes have it, motion carries.
Okay, next on the agenda, I'd like to give you an update on our efficiency review recommendations, how we're going about implementing those. Just as a reminder to everyone in the audience and here, that this report, this efficiency review report with the recommendations in it, we've been working over the last year to implement those recommendations. And we provide an update once a month to the Highway Commission Review and Advisory Subcommittee to report on our progress of implementing the recommendations. And so at the commission meetings, I'm just going to, from here on out till we get them all implemented, give you an update of where we stand. So 2 of the major accomplishments we've made since our last commission meeting is under the category portfolio planning, recommendation number 3, to publish the status of construction projects and maintenance activities. If you'll remember, we have a lot of places on our website where you can go and get information about projects, but there's not a real consolidated way, an easy, user-friendly way for folks to go in and see the projects that are in their area, or whatever they're looking for. So we have advertised for a consultant to help us put together a system that will streamline that and allow that to become part of our website, to be more user-friendly and to be more or less a one-stop place where you can go and figure out anything you want to about projects across the state, including our maintenance efforts. We have received 5 proposals, which we are evaluating right now. So we're that far along in the process. And at some points in the near future, we'll be making a recommendation on who to select to help us with that implementation of that recommendation in that system. The other thing I want to report on is the category of expenditures. Recommendation number 7, implement a project in portfolio, I can't say that word. That's a consultant word. To make you sound smarter than we are, and you must be, because I can't even say the word. But anyway, portfolio management frameworks. So anyway, maintenance management system, you have approved. We have selected the firm of Data Transfer Solutions. We have gone through the negotiations. We have prepared the contract. It was above $50,000, so the rules are that we have to allow the Highway Commission Review and Advisory Subcommittee to review any contracts that we've done that will implement one of the recommendations if it's over $50,000. So we brought that forward at their July, what meeting was it? What meeting did we bring it? It was in August. I'm sorry, I don't have it here, but at their August meeting, we went through the public involvement process. We allowed the HCRAS to have time to review the contract. We went before them at their August meeting, and they considered it reviewed, so we're ready to go forward with this contract. We've done everything that we're supposed to do in accordance with the law and the efficiency review. So that's a good, we're in a good spot there. So we're going to keep moving forward with that. Just as a reminder, the cost of that system is approximately $1.6 million, and it's really going to allow us to use a lot of data to plan our maintenance activities in the future, and it be based more on needs rather than just dividing up the money equally. Instead, we're going to be looking at the needs all across the state and using data to determine how to allocate maintenance dollars each year in the future. So it's going to really be a good step in the right direction of being more efficient in using our funding. Recent department activities. On August 17th, I attended an ABC Breakfast with the Executive series in North Little Rock, and Kelly Wiley, our alternative delivery director, she interviewed me. And so that was a great morning. We had a good conversation. It was a great group. I really enjoyed it. So that was a good opportunity to go and talk with another group's, an important group. ABC is our Associated Building and Contractors Group, and they've been a good friend to the department. Later that same day, we had invited the media and special guests together on 30 Crossing, the River Bridge, to do an interim ribbon cutting because the eastbound side of the River Bridge, we were fixing to put traffic on it, so we were going to make an event out of that, but it rained us out, and we ended up just meeting in the 30 Crossing field office over there off of 6th Street. And we had a great update from Kelly. She updated the press. Marie gave some great comments about the importance of the 30 Crossing project. And so it was a good event in spite of the rain, and we think we got some good coverage on the future of this project, which is going so well. I was asked to speak at the Building Owners Managers Association, or BOMA, Pasta and Policy event. It was their first event of this type, and they had a panel of a pretty prestigious panel with Senator Steve Womack and State Representative Josh Bryant were there. There was a crowd of about 150 people. It was a good event. I updated the crowd about, you know, upcoming projects, the growth in that area of the state, and also an update on the future of electric charging stations across the state. I attended the National Council of Examiners in Engineering and Surveying, which is the NCEES annual business meeting with a group from Arkansas. This year I'm serving as president of that group, so I attended in that role. It was a good meeting, a lot of discussion, a lot of changes made to the model law, and it's a good representation of the department since we have the highest number of engineers, or we employ the most engineers of any organization in the state. While I was at that meeting, Rex represented us at the Arkansas-Oklahoma Concrete Conference and did a great job presenting to that group. We signed a partnering agreement to up that, to get that up to date. And then they had presented us with a Long Life Concrete Pavement Recognition Award, which was a great honor. It recognized the work on I-430 over 50 years ago. I-430, that concrete pavement has held up extremely well, and we received an award to recognize that. So right after that, the next week, we went to the Southern Association of State Highway and Transportation Officials. 1,400 attendees at that event. It was a great event, and while we were there, they awarded us a America's Transportation Award. We were the regional award winner for SASHTO for a large project category for the Bella Vista bypass. So I got to go up on stage and accept that award, and now it's up for either the public choice, and the public can vote on it for their favorite project across the nation, or it might be selected by the panel. So we're hopeful that the Bella Vista bypass will get the national award. Right now we have the regional award, but we're hopeful for the national. So get out there and vote for it if you want to. Last Thursday, we had a great time in Eldorado as we held our first Tip of the Cap celebration. And we gathered with former Arkansas Commissioner Madison Murphy and others to cut a ribbon on U.S. Highway 167, which the cap, because of the funding from the half-cent sales tax that was passed in 2012, we were able to accelerate completion of the 167 corridor. So we celebrated that because that's a 4-lane connection from southern Arkansas, Eldorado, to central Arkansas, Interstate 530. and it's very important for that area of the state. So we focused some on that corridor, but we also focused on the overall Connecting Arkansas program, which this month we're going to be taking bids on the last project that we promised back in 2012. So once we accept that bid, hopefully it'll be a responsive bid and we'll award it. We will have completed 31 projects, 200 miles, or they'll be under construction. So something to really celebrate, and we had a great time. Our staff did a phenomenal job, even though Parker and Ellen were MIA. We missed them a lot, but the staff did a great job making sure that event went well. Our commissioners, except Keith wasn't unable to attend. He had a former commitment, but everyone was there, and I think everyone had a good time. It was a great event. We're going to have 3 more of those events for sure. We're working the details out. The next event coming up will be in Northeast Arkansas. I'll talk about that in a few minutes. With that, I would like to introduce Jared Wiley, our Assistant Chief Engineer for Planning. He's going to walk you through the draft statewide transportation improvement program for federal fiscal years 2023 and 2026 through 2026.
Thank you, Director. Sure. All right, over the past year, our staff has been hard at work to update and create our next step that'll cover federal fiscal years 23 through 26. This update will add 2 years to our current program. We're pleased to report to you today that we're ready to move forward with your approval to the public comment phase. First, I want to talk to you briefly about what the STIP is and what it must contain. The Statewide Transportation Improvement Program, or STIP as we call it here, identifies the transportation projects that we plan to construct over the next 4 years. The STIP must be financially constrained, and it must include all projects in urbanized areas that are included in each MPO's plan. Federal funds cannot be used on any project that is not identified in the STIP. Before the STIP is adopted, we publish it for comments for 30 days. In accordance with federal performance management requirements, the department reports on the condition of our system each year. Our funding strategies in the STIP ensure that the preservation of our system remains a top priority. We recently released the list of projects included in the draft STIP to the MPOs so they could begin their plan update processes. We expect to receive their approved plans before the end of the year. Once we receive those and address all public comments, we will release the final version of the STIP to Federal Highways and FTA for their final approval. We expect that to happen in December and January timeframe. This list details the over 1,200 organizations and entities that will receive notification that our draft STIP has been released for public comment. Now I'd like to take a look at some of the highlights in the STIP by Rdot district. Okay, in District 1, the STIP will improve over 485 highway miles and replace 37 bridges. It'll improve over 50 miles of Interstates 40 and 55. It'll deploy ITS, or Intelligent Transportation System architecture, along the I-40 corridor between Little Rock and West Memphis. Be a big benefit there. And we're going to construct interchange improvements at the 40-55 interchange in West Memphis. In District 2, we'll improve nearly 400 miles and replace 20 bridges. We'll widen Highway 82 to 4 lanes between Hamburg and Lake Village. And we'll continue the construction of 2-lane Future 69 between Monticello and McGee. In District 3, we'll see improvements to nearly 420 miles of highways and the replacement of 18 bridges. This includes the widening of 4 miles of Interstate 30 from the Texas state line to Interstate 49. And the STIP includes a partnership with Texas DOT to make improvements to Highway 71 or State Line Avenue in Texarkana. In District 4, We'll improve nearly 460 miles of highways, replace 38 bridges, and improve 53 miles of interstates, which is about half the mileage in that district. We'll continue the work to widen Highway 112 corridor. We will construct a new section of Interstate 49, including, we'll complete the widening of Highway 49 north of Paragould, and we'll construct the Pocahontas bypass in partnership with the city. So for 25 and 26, we added about 400 projects at a total cost of $1.8 billion that will cover about 2,000 miles. And in total, in the STIP, it represents 814 projects that will improve over 4,100 miles, which is about a quarter of our system, replace 271 bridges at an estimated cost of $4.4 billion. Director, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jared. So in about 10 minutes, maybe 5, you saw the culmination of a huge amount of work. And our staff that puts this together to get to this point, I would just want to commend them and just say thank you for the hard work that we're able to show today. And I think we have a great program. With your help and your guidance and direction, we have a great pool of projects. In the next 4 years, we're really going to see a difference across the state, both in system preservation and in capital improvements. So with that, I would ask that if you have any questions, we do that, and then I'll need a motion to allow us to take this and put it out for public comment for the next 30 days so that we get comments from the public about this plan that we put together.
Okay, no questions. We'll go ahead and have a motion. Have a motion second for put it out for public comment 30 days.
Second.
Have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. We'll have it put out for public comment.
Okay.
On behalf of the commissioners, I want to thank Jared and his staff also for the time that they spent with us individually going over the STIP and all the mechanics that are involved. They did a great job. So
They
thank you
absolutely
very much,
did.
Jared. We appreciate it. I know all the commissioners join me in that.
I'd like to add at this point that after we go through the public comment period, and before we put it together as the final step to go to Federal Highway for final approval, we'll talk about any comments that we received and any changes that we're going to make for the final step. So that'll be the next step before we send it to Federal Highway for approval. Okay? So thank you for that. Okay, next on our, I'm sorry, I've gotten behind on my deal here, but I'll just talk from here. Next on our agenda is the proposed appropriations budget for state fiscal years 2023 and 2025. So as a reminder, annually, the commission approves our operating budget, which goes into detail for every division and district and the funding for salaries, overtime. We just went through that process, and we have an approved budget for July through June of 2022 and 2023. So that's one activity that we do. This is another activity. It's called our Appropriations Budget, and what it does is you approve this budget to go before the legislature, and they approve our funding levels, our spending authority. That's what we're asking for, is a spending authority. And when we do this, we don't get into the weeds as much as we do the maximum amounts that could possibly be spent over these 2 fiscal years. So I'm going to stop there to make sure everybody understands if you have any questions about this process. So you know exactly what we're talking about, because it took me a while to understand the difference in the 2 budgets. But anyway,
Director Tudor, in this budget, the numbers, I suppose there's money for salaries, maybe additional staff. And are we focusing at all in putting more money towards getting more engineers, more appraisers to help move a lot of these projects ahead? I know it's been, we opened the place in Bentonville up there to try to attract more engineers. And, along with that, I guess you got to have money to pay them,
Yes, and yes. The answer is yes. We have, in this particular budget, we're asking for additional positions to do just that, do a better job in delivering the projects. And I'm going to be getting into that here in a minute.
Okay.
And what was it, the others?
Oh, appraiser in acquisition, right-of-way acquisition.
Yes.
And things of that nature.
Yeah, we are working to, of course, across the nation, there's a workforce shortage. And being a government agency, we have the challenge of not being able to pay as much as the private sector. So we've been really working on, getting those additional folks in line. If we could just fill the positions we have, we'd be in good shape. So we're working towards that. And we've also added some new positions with the hope that we'll be able to attract that talent.
Well, that's kind of ironic that we've got limitations on what we can pay, but we can go hire a consultant to do the work, and they don't have a limitation on what they can pay their people. Is that right? I'm just asking.
Our consultants are a great extension of our staff, and they bring in expertise that we possibly can't have. And we try to keep that balance where we have a good, solid workforce, but we're always going to need to bring in their expertise to help our staff do things that we're maybe not capable, or maybe just need some additional expertise to do.
I can see where it'd be hard to compete against the private sector.
But our consultants are very, very respectful of us, and they don't come after our employees. Now, if our employees want to leave.
I understand.
But.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. I think I better get to my notes. Give me a minute. I have to go through the entire step to get there. It's always interesting, Commissioner Taldo, with you in the meeting. That's why we love you so much. Okay, who put the whole step in my, I'm on page 230. All right. So, with in mind of our future and where we're at today, we are recommending a restructuring of the department. We have several things coming up that we need to be ready for. One of them is the IIJA and the additional money and grant opportunities in the IIJA. Issue 1 passed in 2020, and it kicks in July 1st, 2023. So our overall construction budget is going up. And we need to be prepared to deliver and to spend that funding efficiently, effectively, and to deliver the promises that we've made. In addition, the efficiency review made several recommendations on how to become more efficient here at the department, and we're committed to implementing those recommendations. And part of this restructuring is to make that process be able to achieve that. So my recommendation is to change the structure as you see here on the screen. And just in general, Randy, as you know, has announced his retirement for the end of the year, which we're very, very sad about, and we don't want to lose him, but we're going to have to replace him with 2 people. So, you know, the way we have our hierarchy right now, while it's worked well, we think that we can make it work better by what we're proposing on the screen, and that is to create an upper management that are equal in title to do the chief engineer of pre-construction, chief engineer of operations, and then the chief of administration. And then under that, the assistant chiefs. And we've split up some duties, like over on the planning side. We realized that the assistant chief engineer for planning in the divisions under that particular branch is a huge workload, more than is feasible for one branch, for one supervisor. So my recommendation is to split those duties up into 2 assistant chiefs to try to make that workload more manageable. We also propose to add a local programs division, and that is because our local programs, our partnering program, the Transportation Alternatives Program, the Rec Trails, all of these additional grants that are going to our local agencies, all of that, we need to manage that and manage that effectively. And that has become more of a division function than a section. It used to just be a section under our program management division, but I'm proposing to make that into its own division and possibly moving other sections from around the department to consolidate our coordination and collaboration with our local agencies. It's become more and more of a workload, and we want to deliver that in an efficient manner. Over on the operations, chief of operations side, chief engineer of operations side, the assistant chief, we want to break that into 2. One assistant chief over construction activities, one assistant chief over maintenance activities. The way our districts are now, we have a district engineer, and then we have a district construction engineer and a district maintenance engineer. So those are two big duties of the district. They take care of all the maintenance, and they take care of inspecting all the construction for any kind of construction going on. So there's 2 really big things that they do, and to split that up and to allow us to have 2 assistant chiefs will better align that workload and give us more of an opportunity to deliver well on these projects, deliver well across the state, not only maintenance activities but construction. With that in mind, we want to add another district. The reason is, and I'll show you that right here. What we've done is Rex did a thorough analysis of the state. We have not changed our district structure since the 1960s, is that correct? And since the 1960s, as everyone knows, the demographics of Arkansas has changed dramatically. We have an extremely fast-growing urban area up in Northwest, in West, Fort Smith, in all of the, Fayetteville, Springdale, Bentonville, all those places. And then also we have continued to grow in Central Arkansas. And we looked at this in a lot of different ways. We looked at vehicle miles traveled. We looked at lane miles, not centerline miles, which means the number of lanes, not the length of the roads, but the number of lanes on each road, the amount of interstate that has to be maintained. And based on Rex's recommendation and his thorough analysis, which I completely agree with, this is our recommendation to add an additional district to better cover the state, especially with maintenance and with construction activities, but to allow us to, just to better take care of the system. And it's often been said, if you keep the roads striped and the grass mowed, and the potholes filled, you weren't going to hear very many complaints. But we're stretched so thin, and especially in the central and northwest area. So we think that this is going to provide a better service to the citizens of the state. Now, I'm also adding 2 new divisions. The Traffic Safety Division, right now, we have a lot of emphasis on the safety of our system, but it's kind of disjointed. We've got part of it being looked at in this division and part looked at over here, and we're really trying to up our ITS efforts, especially on the interstates, and it's become a need for a division that's focused only on safety of the system. And there's plenty of work, and to distribute that workload and focus in on something so important, I think deserves a division. And then also our bridge operations. Right now, our heavy bridge maintenance section is under maintenance, but they are responsible for not only the inspections of all the bridges, they monitor the inspections all over the state. They're also responsible with these statewide crews to look at our big, huge bridges like I-40. And then there's also other sections around the department, so we're wanting to bring all that under one division that focuses only on the safety of our bridges, the maintenance of our bridges, to make us better prepared for the future, because as our infrastructure ages and things come up, we want to be sure that we're ready to address that whenever we need to. Now, over on the administration side, I have some sections that I want to turn into divisions. The internal audit section I want to make into a division. That is so important. And if you'll notice, on our current organizational chart, our internal audit section has a solid line to me and a dotted line to the commission. Well, this is it's for optics, but I have changed that to a solid line to the commission and a dotted line to me, signifying to the public that our internal audit, our chief internal audit, has direct access to the commission anytime she needs it. So if it's me or anyone in this position as director, and there's something I'm doing or this position's doing that is raising some concern, the org chart shows what we do already. We already have that, but I wanted the org chart to show that. And with that, we have a new chief internal auditor that I want to introduce to everybody today. Maggie, you want to stand? So Maggie, we are so thrilled that she has agreed to come and be our chief auditor, because it is such an important position. She makes sure that she looks at all the risks, all our processes, everything going on to make sure that we're not in any kind of jeopardy of doing something wrong or not following the laws in the way we should, or having anything going on that might bring that might not be right. And then they also, if they take care of anybody that wants to report an instance of fraud or anything like that. So they have a huge job, especially with a department of 3,700 employees. So Maggie has a bachelor's degree in accounting and a master's degree in business administration from ASU. She's a certified public accountant. She's a certified internal auditor. She's a member of the Institute of Internal Auditors and Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. And she also serves on the Arkansas Teacher Retirement Audit Committee. And she comes from she's been the DEP for 9 years. Since 2009, she has held the position of Deputy Director of the Office of Internal Audit for the Arkansas Department of Inspector General in Little Rock. So she has a huge amount of experience in auditing state agencies. So I am so proud that she decided to come work for us. I think she is going to be an excellent addition to our staff, and we're really going to be in good hands with Maggie as our chief auditor. So thank you, Maggie, for coming. We're just glad you're here. And pretty soon, I'm going to bring her in and let y'all we just have maybe we'll go to lunch or something. That would be fun. Other things that I want to do, I want to turn our retirement section into a division. And then I also want to change our EEO DBE section into a civil rights division. All of this, and then the last thing I want to do is our public information office. I want to make that a division, mainly because I'm going to expand their duties. If you'll remember, one of the implementations of the efficiency review, or the recommendations for the efficiency review, was to have more of a cohesive way of responding to public comments from the legislature, from the public, whatever. And we've got that government Q&A that's going to be coming in-house to help us manage all of those requests for information, along with making our website better. So our public information office is going to expand to be a clearinghouse for all the requests that come in, to make sure that we track them, we know what the responses are, and we have that in one system. Along with, they take care of our website, which is going to be more public friendly when we get through. So we're changing that from a section to a division in order to to expand those duties, and that's a direct result of some of the efficiency review findings. So I could talk for a long, long time about this new reorg, but I'm going to stop here and just ask if there's any questions, because that's pretty much it, just in summary.
I had a question, or had a couple of questions, just about where things ended up with the reorganization. We created a bridge construction team to go out maybe and address more rural bridges last year. Is that under the bridge operations section now, or is that?
Yes.
Okay.
And Rex, would you like to tell about that just a little bit? There was an instance. I've got to brag on our staff just a minute. There was an instance we had to post some bridges, which was really going to cause some problems. And so we created a detour, and our heavy bridge section is going to be able to go in and do some work in-house using our staff to get those bridges back up and take the posting off of it in the next, 3 or 4 months?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct. Yes.
So.
Yes, we built that actually at the, Commissioner Farmer was kind of one of the brainchildren of this idea with him and Brad Smith, the district engineer. As we were seeing some bridges, especially in the northeast part of the state, were failing faster than we could get jobs built. And so some of the smaller bridges with the heavy loads, so we constructed a crew to go in and do really quick replacement projects, really heavy, more than heavy maintenance, but more to get quicker response, so we can keep those roads open to the public and keep farmers able to harvest their crops, plant their crops. So we've replaced several. I think we are preparing a presentation to bring to you maybe next meeting to give you a little more detail, but it's been very successful. Our crew is doing an outstanding job of really responding quickly to a lot of bridges that are failing. So.
Thank you. That's question one. Had a couple more real quick. All the inspectors that you were talking about, that's under district, each district, the construction side of that, is that correct? Field inspectors?
Yes, normally they do report to the district construction engineer.
Okay. I knew we were adding some positions there. And then last question, I think it's, well, I'll just ask a question. I appreciate you putting the audit line there to the commission. I think that's important, and I appreciate it. I like the fact that you've moved communications and you've got legal with the straight line to you. legislative policy and governmental relations. Is that under legal?
What
I didn't see it
what
on
we're
there.
planning on doing is moving that function over into communications.
Okay. As long as it was a straight line to you, I just,
Yeah, it's a dotted line to me.
well, dotted line. Yeah.
But what that means, there will be times I have to deal with and all the things that we need just to operate. They're not the actual number of people, warm bodies. But over the years, we have reduced that and reduced that. But this year, we're asking to go back up 95 more positions, but we're still way under what we used to be. And then those 95 positions that we're asking for in this biennium budget, this gives a breakdown of where they'll go. The new district and the new divisions are the majority of where those new positions will be. And the total cost per year annually in our operating budget to add these 95 positions, real bodies, if you will, is $6 million a year. So I need to make sure you understand the cost of this reorganization moving forward. And with that, we've created this biennium budget. And Patrick, are you ready? He's going to go over the actual numbers that will be submitted to the legislature.
Thank you, Director. What you see up here on the screen right now is the revenues that Rdot receives. And I'll go through some of the categories and any questions you may have. As the Director already mentioned, this is our spending authorities. So these are going to be different numbers than you've seen in your budget and other, these are what our maximum spending authorities can be based on what-if situations. The top line, Arkansas Highway Transfer Fund, that's where our $50 million surplus and our security reserve, $20 million that we request every year. That's where those funds are accounted for. We're planning on those being flat. And let me back up real quick. Is what you have here is state fiscal year 23's numbers that are already in Act 89 for this year that we're operating under. The next column is for state fiscal year 24 and state fiscal year 25, and those are the ones we'll be presenting at our budget hearings in October for the legislative review. Sorry, I should have explained that earlier. So as part of, so the state fiscal year 23 is kind of our starting point. So under federal funds, you see an increase there of 17.6%. From 23 to 24, and then 20% from 24 to 25. What we're looking at there is, like the Director mentioned a minute ago, the IIJ funding coming in, your revenue. So we're taking that approximately 260 million and putting that into the highway user revenue line. So that's what makes up that 53.2%. Natural gas severance, we're planning on a 5% increase potentially over 23-24, and then flat for 24-25. As I just mentioned, jumped around and mentioned about the half% sales tax. You see the 23 fiscal year 23 at 260 million, and then 0 and 0 for the next two. That's where that shift occurs to our highway user revenue line, that third line. We will continue to have interest, however, on the funds that are remaining in the half-cent program, or the 2012 Connecting Arkansas program, until those funds are fully expended, which, Kelly, 27, 28, that's something approximately for those fiscal years. So we'll still be asking for appropriations or showing revenue here for that, and there'll be appropriations that you'll see in a minute that will continue. Then we've got our Act 416 of 2021, anticipating a 3% growth over 23-24 and a 3.9% growth over 24-25. Then we get into the all-inclusive other category, which it includes the Fayetteville Shell permits, damage settlements, partnering receipts, other receipts from other agencies that we may get, transfers between other funds that we have. So as you can see, we're projecting our revenues for this, and these revenues support the appropriations of $2 billion and then $2.2 billion. So an 8.2% increase and a 10.2% increase over the next 2 years.
You want to stop here for questions? Any questions about revenue?
Patrick, the 8.2% expected increase, that's about what inflation is, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so it doesn't really give us, if you factor in inflation, it doesn't practically give us any more revenue.
It's not a whole, no, there's not a lot of cushion there.
Yeah, we're on the half, see if I'm thinking about this right, on the half-cent sales tax, which column is that? The
It's the 2012
Connecting Arkansas program?
Well, it's there this year,
Yeah,
and then it ends June 30th. It's gone. We don't collect it there anymore, but then there's a half-cent that starts being collected that goes here under highway user.
okay, so that's in, and I was just wondering if you inflation being as critically high as it is, did you factor inflation into that number that you projected?
It's probably inherent in there, but did I specifically? No.
Yeah, okay, so we're gonna have growth in that, hopefully, but then we're gonna have an impact in that because of inflation, I would think. So.
And one thing to take into account with this revenue is this is the revenue that we're expecting to receive each of these years, okay? So for this year, if everything fell right, this is what we would expect to get. But you also take into account the beginning balance, the July 1 of 23 beginning cash balances of all these different funds too, that gives us a little more spending power.
Yeah.
For lack of a better term. So some of the inflation risks in there could be absorbed by the beginning cash balances that we have, or we had, when this was presented.
Yeah.
And these are best guesses that we can, because the director and myself have to, every year, certify the income to substantiate our appropriation request. And if it's less than our appropriation, they can block it. If it's more than our appropriation, then we can go in and make a case for increasing our appropriation. So there are some mechanisms to be flexible. And so.
Yeah, I can see the difficulty there because, inflation could work both ways. It could cause people to spend less. And so even though you've got an inflation rate of 8.2% or whatever it is, maybe 10% by then, people may spend 10% less and you're
right
kind of back where you started.
Well, and if you think back 2 years ago, I know you all are probably tired of hearing me say, natural gas severance is up. Is it going to continue? 2 years ago, we weren't even saying the $20 million number for natural gas severance. It was in the 10 and 9.
Yeah.
And so that's how quick your point's well
Things can
taken.
change.
That's how quick some of that can change.
Thank you, Patrick.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions on this one? Okay, and just for clarification, just remember that's the revenue side of it. And so the appropriation side of it is what we have on the screen right now. And these are our 11 funds that we have under Rdot's umbrella. So as you can see here, our appropriation request, once again, we've got the 3 columns. The 22-23 is what we're operating under currently. The next other columns are what we're going to be requesting. So on you can kind of look through there, and I'll jump to just the summary for this one, and I'll go through the line items, but then go to the summary, because the very last slide I have gives you the four that we're talking about changing. But that top line is our operating fund for Rdot. That's where the salaries that Mr. Taldo was asking about, the personal matching, those type things. That's the appropriation that by law is the only place we can pay those things out of. Then we've got the 2012 Connecting Arkansas program. Like I said, the revenues are going to stop at the end of this fiscal year, but we're still going to have funds in those accounts to do projects. And so as you see here, there's not a zero here. There's a $435 million and a $435 million, just to pin. Go ahead.
Well, I want to just clarify, not do projects, but to continue paying projects that are underway. We'll have projects that are under construction. We'll continue to pay contractor payments until they're completed. So that's what that money's for, to.
Correct, and to let the last one that she was talking about this earlier. And so that'll continue to wind down. The next one is $34 million. We've got a state aid road program and a state aid street that we have $34 million each staying flat there. We've got highway public transit operations that is used for matching. We've got our ACCEPT program. We've got the road and bridge repair. Mr. Taldo, Commissioner Taldo, this is the one you were asking about that goes to the counties. Right now, we've got a $2 million. We're probably going to have to go to the legislature and ask for it to be increased, because I've already distributed almost $1 million in 2 months. And that coincides with the height of the natural gas severance. It's 5% of that mix. And so oh, go ahead.
So we stopped sending that, or greatly reduced it at some point when the fracking pulled back, is that right?
No, we didn't. Now, what we received, because every month we receive an amount. That whole amount goes out the door.
Okay.
And so we didn't. It was just that the taxes that were being collected and
Wasn't there.
Was not there.
Got it.
And so we're going to go back to the above the levels that we were 2 years ago, or 4 years ago actually, at $5 million. We're anticipating that it could reach the $7 million. So that one's going up. The next three, we're not asking for any changes. The last one is our Future Transportation Research and Workforce Development Grant Fund. These last two funds, the interfund facilities grants and the bottom one, are the two that I was talking about earlier that we fund with the first $1,025,000 of interest on RRA funds. And so that intermodal facilities is fully funded. That's all it'll get during the year. The transit research and workforce development, we went down a little bit because our cash balance is lower, but if we don't get enough grant applications that are good grant applications that we want to fund, or workforce development funding, raising it back up to $2 million allows us to do that if we want to. Any questions on that? And then in quick wrap up, this last slide shows you just the four that we're suggesting changes for. Like I said, the top one is the operating fund, our main fund. This will pay for virtually all our bills of operating expenses, payments, contractors, salaries. It also pays for the Garvey debt service. We've got Garvey bond debt service through 2027 that we've got to pay, and so it'll be $70 million in fiscal year '24 and $50 million in fiscal year '25. We're requesting a higher appropriation due to the higher capital outlay that we talked about with the revenue sources of IIJA, FHWA, and potential future grants that we're hoping to get. And then the half-cent sales tax program funding coming up into that mix also. The Connecting Arkansas program of 2012, once again, that'll just continue to spend down on the projects that we've already got out there. The road and bridge repair, We talked about a minute ago, that's what goes to the counties, and it, once again, correlates with what we collect on the natural gas severance. It's calculated off of that. So with natural gas severance being high, it stands to reason that this will be high also, and potentially higher than we're used to. And then the last one is the grants, and we're going down 500,000 and then back up, and that just allows us to spend funds as we need them. We can accumulate in that fund and then spend them as we need them. If there's not any questions, I'll turn it back over to the director. Thank you.
All right, so that's our budget proposal for the appropriations budget. And if I need a motion that allows us to submit this to the Legislative Council and the Joint Budget Committee.
I have a motion to submit this to Legislative Council and Joint Budget Committee.
Moved.
We have a motion second.
Second.
I have a motion second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Motion carries.
Thank y'all. Auction service selection. You authorized us to go out for proposals for an auction service firm, and those responded were Blackman Auctions and J.J. Kane Auctioneers of Birmingham, Alabama. Blackman Auctions is of Little Rock, Arkansas. And based on the Evaluation Committee's review, it's recommended that negotiations begin with Blackman Auctions of Little Rock, Arkansas to provide auction services. So I request a motion to begin negotiations with this firm.
Lori, one question, excuse me. One question. I looked at that and I looked at the what do you call it? The ability of both of those companies, what they do, and there was a drastic difference in the two. Are there just not many regular auction houses around? I mean, those just look like the difference in night and day there.
Can I get Danny? Would it be all right to get Danny?
I was just curious about
Danny,
that.
can you
And
address
Blackman
that?
is very, I mean, they're a great company and everything.
They're very.
But I was just curious why we didn't have other Arkansas firms look at that.
Can you hear me? Okay, to answer your question, you know, there's really not a lot of live auctioneers left. You see it going more and more to online. We at DOT still say that we have, and the proof is in the pudding with us, with our historical data, that we just do better with a live auctioneer. DOT's around us. Alabama's an example. They do the same thing. We had two. It's not uncommon for us to get 4 or 5 firms that would express an interest. This time they simply did not. Don't really know why. And the other one that did was a full online service, which the logistics there can be crazy. And in this arena that we've been dealing with, we have 1-day auction, and the day of, they hand us a check. It's almost unheard of. So don't really know why.
I'm not promoting online at all.
Right.
You know, I'm just saying, it just seems that there's a lot of auctioneers around. I get stuff auctions all the time, you know.
Right.
And, you know, some of them are online, but there's a lot of live auctions too. But
There are. Not real sure why we didn't get any more interest.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay, I need a motion to allow us to begin negotiations.
Have a motion? Second. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed,
Aye.
no. Motion carries.
Our next request is for our roadway safety management system. We went out for requests for proposals. We received 6 proposals, and they were reviewed by the evaluation team. Actually, 6 proposals were received, and we evaluated 5 of those proposals. They made the short list. And based on the evaluation committee's review, it's recommended that negotiations begin with Diexis LLC to develop and implement a roadway safety management system for the department. And so if there's no questions, I'd like to request a motion to begin those negotiations with that firm.
Any questions? Have a motion?
Crashes.
So it actually takes the information, the system, and
Yeah.
analyzes it.
Yes.
Where it crashes, and that's how we determine whether we need safety improvements or traffic lights or things like that.
Yeah, and and it's tied to GPS data, so we can create those heat maps to see where we have clusters of accidents that may need attention, wet weather accidents, all of those things to manage the safety of our system. This computer software will help us do
So
that.
when a mayor or county judge makes an inquiry, we have some data to back up the decision that
Yes.
is up to the day information, essentially.
Well, as much as we,
Pretty close.
I mean,
Close.
yeah, yes.
Okay. Thank
yes,
you.
uh-huh.
Lori,
Yes.
on that same issue, it seemed like one of the issues we had with accidents and all of that was the information we really needed wasn't the same information as what was collected by the state police when they were working an accident.
There's been a lot of coordination to improve data collection in the field. We've worked really hard on that with different initiatives, but it's getting a lot better, a lot more accurate.
So will this interface in any way with the state police so we get good information? You know, I guess these information systems, garbage in, garbage out, good information in, good information out.
Yes.
I mean, it seems that
It
we need
will.
some kind of effort to make sure that we're on board with the state police and vice versa. Because I think they could use a lot of the information too.
Yes, but they're not taking the information and creating a plan for roadway
Right.
improvements. So
Right.
they use the information,
Other ways.
I don't know how, just overall safety initiatives.
Right.
But we're using it for literally figuring out what projects to do. So it's extremely important that it's good data. And looking at one of the reasons for this system is built-in quality control performance measures, tools, and reporting. So yes, there'll be an effort to streamline all of that collaboration with Arkansas State Police and make it a better system so it's more real-time and it helps us do a better job.
So does that play into our design standards on the roadways, the asphalt? And, I know we've got this material or whatever it is, some kind of material, overlay material, that if we've got a section of highway where it's real slick and there's accidents and people, that we go in and do an overlay in there, and it makes a huge difference.
Absolutely,
And
yes.
so will they get input from this to be able to know where to utilize that material?
It's probably one of the biggest things that this will do for us is to identify those spots that we can go out. For instance, what you're talking about, from the data, we can see we have a high incident of wet weather crashes. We'll go out there and do what we call a skid analysis to see if the pavement has become too slick.
Right.
And if it has, we'll do whatever we need to do, whatever remedy we need to make, whether it's an overlay or whatever it needs to be, our engineers will make a recommendation. But that's exactly what this is about.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so the final one today is a consultant selection for an on-call alternative delivery services. As you know, Kelly's over our alternative delivery, and we have 2 projects ongoing and we have 2 more underway, and 1 we're working to get underway. So we've got a really small staff, and we need consultants to help be an extension of our staff to help us administer and make this alternative delivery. And it has everything to do with workforce shortage. We just can't get enough people, but we want to deliver these projects and do it well. And so we shortlisted 3 firms. We had 8 responses. We shortlisted 3 firms. They all had excellent proposals and excellent interviews. And so we're recommending that we put on call the firms seen on your screen: Garver LLC of North Little Rock, HNTB Corporation of Little Rock, and Volkert Incorporated of Little Rock, to help with our alternative delivery program. So I request a motion to begin negotiations with these 3 firms. And these are for on-call consultants to be used as we need them.
Any questions? Have a motion to approve the on-call consultants? Second? Second. Second. All in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it, motion carries.
So this fall is going to be busy. Everybody get ready. In addition to your day job, you're going to be doing a lot of highway work. September 22nd, Commissioner Farmer and I have 2 meetings to discuss projects up in Northeast Arkansas. It's shown on the screen, Jonesboro and Osceola. On September 28th, I've agreed to go talk to the Hot Springs Rotary Club. Looking forward to that. On September 30th, we're going to do a ribbon cutting at Ward at the request of the mayor. So it'll be a small event, and more to come on that later. October 11th, we're planning on is there a commission appreciation luncheon that day along with a ribbon cutting? We'll be sending out more information on that as well. On October 13th, I'm going to be at lunch. At lunch, I'm going to speak to the Conway Business Expo. And then from that, we're going to travel to Fort Smith. We're working out possible groundbreaking from the I-49 interstate from Barling to Alma. We're going to do a groundbreaking event. We're working on the details of that. I've spoken with each of you about that a little bit, so we'll have more information on that soon. October 14th, we're going to be cutting a ribbon on the Arkadelphia bypass, and that's a really important job. We're looking forward to that event. October 19th through 23, as the AASHTO annual conference. It begins on the 19th, but on October 20th, I'll be presenting this biennium budget at the hearing with the budget committee. So I'm going to go in a little bit late, but I have a meeting that following day. I'm the chairman of the Committee of Funding and Finance for AASHTO, so we moved that meeting so that I could be sure and be at the budget hearing. And then October 26th, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to have our second Tip of the Cap event in Northeast Arkansas. We're working out the location as we speak, so get ready. We're going to have another big event to celebrate the completion or the culmination of that 2012 half-cent sales tax and the projects that we promised. Other business and discussion. I've asked Rita Looney, our Chief Legal Counsel, to give you an update on the 30 Crossing court cases.
Good morning. There. As most of you know, there are some cases pending, but also one case that has been concluded, I'll start with this morning, that relates to the 30 Crossing project, and that is the federal district court case. We have the three cases, as are noted on the beginning slide there. The federal case, there's 2 Pulaski County Circuit Court cases, and the first one The NEPA case, that's the environmental case, that has concluded in our favor, and I think most of you are aware of that, but just wanted to, again, celebrate that that NEPA case is over, and the court ruled in our favor on every single point in that litigation, and the time frame for the plaintiffs to appeal expired in May. The court ruled that FHWA, along with Rdot, had indeed taken a, quote, hard look. That's a standard that is required for evaluation of the environmental document, and that the project, the 30 Crossing project, was not required to have a reevaluation, and therefore the court denied the plaintiff's summary judgment motion and ruled in our favor on all points. The Amendment 91 case, as you know, that is the case that challenged our use of Amendment 91 funds on the two referenced projects, the Interstate 30 Crossing project and Interstate 630 Baptist Hospital project. Following a trial court decision that was in our favor, the Arkansas Supreme Court reversed back in October of 2020, and since that time we have spent no Amendment 91 funds on 30 Crossing. However, on remand, and this is what is still pending, on remand to the trial court then granted attorney's fees, $18 million to the attorneys who had brought that cause of action, and we, of course, have appealed that award to the Arkansas Supreme Court. For several reasons, we believe that the trial court erred and abused its discretion, and that error produced a prohibited windfall to the plaintiff's attorneys of more than $18 million. Oral argument is scheduled later this month, September 29th, for this matter to be heard by the Arkansas Supreme Court. And the last one is what we here call the the Lrdna case, Little Rock Downtown Neighborhood Association. This case is a complaint that was brought in Pulaski County in November of 2020, and then they amended. Originally, it was just brought against the department. Then the plaintiffs amended their complaint to add the commissioners, and essentially this alleges an illegal use of the Amendment 91 funds, and also alleged a future improper use of Amendment 101 funds. That is the amendment that makes the collection of the half-cent sales tax permanent, and that amendment, as you know, did not have a limitation to 4-lane highways, but was for usage on all of the Arkansas State's highway systems. The parties filed cross motions for summary judgment back in February, and the trial court ruled in our favor on the use of Amendment 91 funds. The plaintiffs had complained that we, as a result of that Supreme Court decision, that we could not use these funds for improvements of 4-lane highways where they were adding capacity, specifically, for example, like the project in Saline County on I-30. And the court ruled in our favor on that issue and ruled that improvements, which is a part of Amendment 91, includes adding capacity, and therefore it's proper for us to continue to use those funds for those purposes. However, the court ruled against us on the future use of 101 and held, we believe improperly, that Amendment 101 is an extension of Amendment 91, and then he went a step further to enjoin us from using Amendment 101 funds on the 30 Crossing in the future. As you may or may not know, Amendment 101 funds have not even begun to be collected yet. So we believe that was an advisory opinion and improper for the court to have made. So cross appeals have been filed in that case as well. That is also currently pending before the Arkansas Supreme Court. And the trial court granted a stay of the plaintiff's motions for attorney's fees on the portion that they were successful while this matter is pending. So those are the cases that are currently pending. We have filed our brief with the Supreme Court on September 2nd, and yet to hear the other side's briefs or see their briefs. And that is not scheduled for oral argument at this time.
Yeah.
Brett, I have a question. You said these are the cases that are presently pending. You don't mean all the cases. You just mean a certain group of cases. You've got to have a whole bunch of cases out there.
Oh, we have hundreds. These are the 3 unique litigation matters concerning 30 Crossing.
Okay, that's just 30 Crossing things. But
And
then
you-
there's also other things with 30 Crossing, I guess. I mean, I read it in the paper. You know,
Yes.
that got me in trouble last time. You remember that?
We have,
Yeah.
we have
There was
other
something in
cases.
the paper last week about an appeal on eminent domain.
Yes, we have hundreds of cases throughout the state regarding condemnation cases and eminent domain. And what you probably likely read is that is the case that was in Pulaski County 3 weeks ago is the only eminent domain condemnation case that has been filed and gone to a jury on the 30 Crossing acquisitions.
That's the only one.
Correct.
Okay, is there an appeal process to that?
There is the potential of an appeal process. However, whether or not that particular one would be appealed has not yet been determined.
Okay.
But sometimes the jury's decisions are what ends up standing, and there's no appeal that goes forward.
Okay, and one more thing. Could you just give me an idea of how big a staff you have?
I have 7 staff attorneys, a deputy chief counsel, and then myself.
And you all handle all those hundreds of cases?
We do.
It's a
In
lot of
addition
work.
to billboard cases, in addition to junkyard cases, in addition to claims commission cases, and then the condemnation cases as well.
Do you have to get outside help ever with that few of people and that big of a load? I mean, like the engineers, they have on-call engineers. Do you have on-call attorneys?
We have
Is that
only.
stupid? No, no.
That's not a stupid, no.
Okay.
We have only required outside counsel for purposes of appellate matters when they're unique cases. For example, these 2 cases that are on appeal before the Supreme Court right now, so that we can handle the regular business, as you've referenced, on the condemnation cases, billboards, and others.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Rita.
You're welcome.
So. Oh, our very own Parker is turning a year older today. You know, when they told me that, I was shocked. I didn't know. Anyway, he's been with us nearly 2 years. He's done a fabulous job, and we're so thankful he's with us. He's accomplished a great deal. He's really upped our game. Everything is going so well. We hope we can keep him happy. Now that he's a division, he's going to have more work to do. But you're still there. Don't worry. Nothing's changing. We're just going to add a little bit to your load. But you'll yeah. So I would offer to sing. Maybe our chairman can sing. He can sing. JR, wake up, JR Grace. But they gave me some clever words here. Our very own pitchman, because Parker actually threw out the first pitch of the Travelers game when we were trying to.
it was interesting.
Perfect in the picture.
And then the other picture is just that he has a cool side as well. So he is pretty cool. We're so happy that he came to work for us. So happy birthday, Parker. We'll celebrate later. We'll go to Three Sam's and get a barbecue. All right, well, that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman, and I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Madam Director. Any other business from commissioners? Anyone comments? Looks like all satisfied. Madam Director, thank you very much. Thank you and the staff for another great job. We appreciate you very much. And without objection, that'll conclude our meeting today. Thank you all for being here in attendance. Have a good rest of the day.